Hit record right now. Well, I appreciate you making it on the show. And I saw on Instagram your daughter just got engaged.
Yeah, she got engaged, man. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. When your her fiance during the boyfriend years, do you ever show up with like a barong sword when you first meet him? Like your wrestling gear and your highlights of your knockouts playing in the background when you meet him, or?
I know, man. I know. I thought about that, but yeah, I didn't have the opportunity to do that. I didn't even think about that. I mean, he came to the house, and we he had told me, yeah, I'm interested in dating your daughter, this and that. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, cool, man. Um, you ever fight? you know, and it's like, I go, you know who I am, right? No, I'm just kidding. I never did that. I never did that kind of thing. But he's a good kid. My daughter is studying to be a missionary. She's in Hawaii right now, um, with an organization called YWAM, and they met there, and they just hit it off, and he's a good kid, and I just told him, I just asked him, I said, I just want two things from you, and are you willing to give these two things? He goes, yes, Mr. Munoz, yes, whatever it takes. I said, well, I just want you to love her unconditionally,
Sure.
and I want you to provide for her, give her a great home, and that's it, And he said, I will.
Oh,
Because I
that's good.
will.
That's awesome, man. Because I think she's your eldest, right?
Yeah,
Firstborn.
she's my oldest. Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
okay. Well, I think in certain instances, like for someone who's not a fighter like me, you would be over defensive. Where someone like you, because you there's nothing to prove, so you're a little bit more relaxed about it. Where if I were
Yeah.
you, I'd have like the wrestling mats. Okay, we're gonna meet at the wrestling mats right over here. Good luck, because I'm a tosser. KC's coming out of my heart right now, bro. Before I even meet you, as that, because I'm insecure as hell, man. So that's awesome, man. I think that's a awesome chapter to add to the post MMA career, and you establishing like all these like schools and doing the seminars. And for the listening audience, Coach Mark is
Yeah.
generous enough to wake up early in the morning and do this pod for Believe. So, which is
Yeah.
cool.
No problem, brother. I mean, you know, I, it's things like this that keep me relevant in what I do. And so, I appreciate you having me on the podcast, and wanting to interview me, and all that, man. So, I got some exciting news as well. I mean, I got a movie coming out. You know,
Oh, dope.
yeah, it's called Lumpia with a Vengeance. It's coming out. Uh, yeah, funny, right? It's an action comedy, and Danny Trejo's in it, and I'm excited about that coming out, and so yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I got a lot of things brewing. I got this job offer, and accepted it, and gonna build a program, and I'm actually in Idaho right now at a national tournament for my kids. So I'm just yeah, like you said, I'm hustling and grinding, and but this is the stuff I love to do. This is my life, and I love it, and opportunities come up, and I just walk through on faith, and see what God's gonna keep blessing me with. And so I'm super blessed right now with retirement, and for these roles, I need to I need to be like The Rock, man. So I need to start lifting and getting in shape. So
Right. Coach Mark, is the speakers like blocked on the cell phone? But it's all right, right?
no, it's not blocked. I'm actually cupping it so you can hear me better.
Oh, okay, cool. But for wrestling, is there, like, you know how with YouTube jiu-jitsu and submissions, the rapidity is rising so fast? Is that something that's going on with wrestling right now as you see the current generation of kids? Because I think
Yeah,
not a lot of people talk about wrestling and its progress.
yeah. Wrestling actually is gaining some steam because it's on TV now. It's on TV. It's on college wrestling, and it's gaining some steam. So if you think about it, rest and any combat sport, out of all the combat sports, wrestling is the only one that's offered in schools. You know, there's no karate, there's no boxing, there's no jujitsu. It's it's no Muay Thai. It's just wrestling. Wrestling's offered in schools. Wrestling's in college. You can get a scholarship for wrestling. You know, so um, so for 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 students that want to get into a combat sport, wrestling is the only thing that you can really get into. So um, and for me, it really it really saved my life. I mean, I got jumped in eighth grade and found wrestling. A good friend of mine said, "Hey, you need to learn how to wrestle." And in a time that I was trying to find myself in the eighth grade, and thank goodness, because I would have ran with a different crew and probably would have went down a different road. So yeah, I truly believe like wrestling is gaining its steam and saving kids like me and helping other people um, gain confidence, and that's what I'm about. When I coach kids, I coach them based upon their skill set and try to add to them and not change them. And for me, it's about um, giving them confidence. It's about their self-esteem. It's about building the person from the inside out. That's how I coach. I want to transform them into people um, that can rise above adversity, that have resilience, that have desire, to have direction, to have diligence, to have discipline, to have dedication, to have character, to have integrity. I want to test that in whoever I coach, and so it can be stronger in all the areas of their life. So yeah, so that's what I love to do, and it's what I'm doing right now, and I'm getting paid for what I love to do. So I can't complain, man.
Now, a lot of people don't realize I'm in my mid 40s and we belong to a different mindset than the baby boomers, which is our parents, right?
Yeah,
Were your parents
yeah.
resistant to you? Go, oh, hijo, no, 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 no wrestling, no killing, no, just basketball and football. Like,
Exactly.
was
That's
it
what I was
like that? Because my parents were resistant to me training in Muay Thai back then. You know,
Yeah. You know what? No, my parents didn't really they didn't object from me wrestling, but my dad my dad basically said, if you want to wrestle, you wrestle from the first day to the last day and every day in between. So you finish what you start. And I go, all right. Um, so when I had asked him, he said, yeah, you just wrestle every day. And, at the end of the season, you let me know. Well, the first day came and I just thought, hey, I'm gonna wrestle, and I'm gonna learn this stuff. And I got a funny story because a friend of mine introduced me to wrestling after I got bullied, right? So he said, hey man, you should learn how to wrestle. I'm like, no man, you guys wear tight leotards and tuck each other in funny places, man. I'm cool with that. He's like, what, you think that's funny? I go, no man, that's just what you do, man. I'm gonna keep playing basketball and football. That's what I do, right? And he's like, you think that's funny? I go, no, 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 no. That's not. I don't think it's funny. It's just what you do, bro. And he goes, I bet you I can take you down in 10 seconds. I said, yeah, right. You're barely 5 foot nothing, 100 pounds. I'm like 5'6", 150 pounds at the time, right? I said, you ain't gonna take me down, homie. He goes, I bet. I go, yeah, right. So we're in this classroom and it's during lunch period, lunchtime. So we walk into the hallway. I said, yeah, right, man. So I'm like I'm like bouncing up and down, trying to get in the stance. Like, come on, homie. I'm wiggling my fingers like I'm gonna do magic to him or something. Like, yeah, what's up? What you gonna do? Right? Shoot, he shoots in 2 seconds flat, picks me up, slams me on my back, and I've been wearing a tight leotard ever since, right? So I was like, man, if wrestling gives me superpowers like that, I want it. You know, I want it, right? And so I go home and I ask my dad, and I go, Dad, uh, I want to wrestle. He goes, oh, you want to wrestle, huh? Okay. So you wrestle the first day and the last day and every day in between. I told you that already. And he goes, you're not, you're not gonna quit. I go, okay, no. Okay, cool. That's easy, right? So I go to the first day of practice and the coach is teaching double legs, the same, the same takedown that James Boutain hit on me, right? So I was like, oh, sweet. I can't wait to hit this on James. I'm a whoop on him, right, with this move, right? So so I'm teaching the double leg and we're learning it. All right, and then the coach goes, all right, guys, it's time to go live. And I'm like, what? Live? I am alive. What does that mean? Right? and, and then the guy goes, oh, no. That's when coach puts us in the double leg. And then when he says go, you try to sprawl or, you know, you try to get out or whatever. And I go, but they didn't teach us the sprawl yet. Right? I'm like, I just learned the double leg, but I don't know how to sprawl yet. And so the kid gets in on the double leg, and I'm like, oh man, how do I? All right, so I'm just gonna try to sprawl, right? And so, and the guy already wrestled for like a year already, right? So I'm so the coach says go, and he takes me down, and I'm like, oh shoot, and I'm trying to get up. He cross faces me, and then um, and then I try to get up. He mat returns me to the mat, like puts me on my face and cross faces me again. I'm like, man, this ain't fun, right? Because I end up getting a bloody nose and my lip got cut, and I'm like, oh my, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, right? And so I go back home and I go, Dad, uh, and I'm like trying to be like slick about it. I'm like, Dad, I went to the first day of practice and I don't think I don't think this is what I want to do. And he goes, what? No, I told you. You got to finish what you started. I'm like, what? No, Dad, please. I don't want to wrestle. And he goes, yeah, you're going to wrestle. I'm like, no, Dad, no. I don't want to wrestle. But anyways, next day comes and I'm at home. He goes, what are you doing? I go, uh, he goes, he grabs me by my arm, takes me to the car, opens the door, throws me into the car, drives me to school, presents me in front of the coach and says, hey, Coach Minahan, Mark Munoz is here. See you later. I'm like, oh my gosh, dang it, Dad. You know, so I'm like, I end up wrestling and I end up getting my lumps. I took my lumps, man. And I'm thankful my dad did that because I mean, after all, I ended up becoming a 2-time state champion, a high school national champ. I get a full ride scholarship. I take second in the junior worlds. You know, I'm an NCAA champion, multiple American, and you know, I coached college wrestling for over 12 years, and now I'm known as the Filipino wrecking machine. You know, so you know, it's just I'm thankful, man. I'm thankful for the events in my life, and even though the start of my wrestling career was because I got bullied and jumped, now I have an anti-bullying campaign that I do all around Orange County, and I coach wrestling, right? So those roads led me to who I am today, and what I do, man. So I'm thankful. I look back and I'm so thankful about. I'm so thankful for the events that happened in my life.
When you were growing up in, is it Vallejo, California?
Yep, Vallejo. Yep.
So all you guys are like, hell of this, hell of that, yeah, Oakland, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah, too short. Um,
Yo,
was
yeah.
the racial component still unusual to see someone who's like Pacific Islander to be wrestling at that point, or was it the what that wasn't even factored because it was more of like an integrated society where you were living in?
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't that at all. I mean, we it was very highly diverse in Vallejo, very highly diverse. There was many many cultures represented, many races represented, and many countries represented in just the small city of Vallejo. Well, it's not small; it's big, but I mean, it's there was definitely Mexicans, blacks, whites, um, Asians. There's um, Indian guys on the team, and I mean it was very highly diverse, man. I mean, I just I was raised in that type of environment, so it wasn't that at all. It wasn't that at all. Although we went to wrestling tournaments and we were the only like, I was like the only Filipino. We were the only Filipinos wrestling, everywhere else. It was like, whoa, it was very different to me, So, um, now and now being involved in the sport for over, wow, let's say 28 years, 29 years. Dang, almost
Ooh,
30 years. Almost 30 years, man. Wow.
that's a ton
Being
of
involved,
presidents ago.
yeah, I know, right? It's like 3 decades. For almost 3 decades, I've been involved in the sport, and um, I'm very thankful, that I got introduced to it, and I've been, I've been a coach for pretty much half my life, so in the sport and leading young men and women to the sport. Leading him through the sport is what I love to do. So yeah. So I mean, looking around, I see, you know, it being more popular with being multiracial now. Um, but growing up, it wasn't the case at all. Yeah.
Coach Mark, I've overthought this next question to death because I feel like we come from the last era of the nose to the grindstone generation because we didn't
Yeah.
have the internet, the benefit of not having it.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned in a previous interview where like uh, you go to OKC and it's like, oh, what kind of Mexican are you? Right? Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, for our time, maybe that was just innocent. It's just like I just don't know what a Filipino is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Munoz sounds Latin because it is a Latin
Yeah.
derivative due to our culture.
Yeah.
Did you see that as kind of like, oh, he just doesn't know? Or did
Yeah.
you see that as like, were you offended? How was your reaction if you could recount from back then?
Well, there was, so just to preface the story,
Sure, please.
I got accepted into college at Oklahoma State, which I had a full ride scholarship to, and when I got injured my sophomore year, I end up getting this tape called "How Low Can You Go" by John Smith. It's a technique video learning low single legs and high crotches, and so I was like, because I was a thrower, I was a Greco-Roman wrestler before I before I even watched this, and so then I just like, wow, I'm gonna start shooting low single legs and high crotches now, So I was watching it, and being injured because I broke my ankle at a church camp, and I broke it in 4 places. I broke my tibia, my fibula, my calcaneus, ripped off that's my heel bone, ripped off my foot, and I broke my talus vertically and opened like a book. So that's for your weight bearing bone. So I was I was done for like a year, and so a little over a year, and so uh, I just lifted and I swam. I did everything I could to stay in shape, and I ended up getting a lot bigger. But as soon as I got back on the mat, man, I learned how to do low single legs and high crotches. So I watched that video, and I watched John Smith, and he was a 6-time world champion, an Olympic champion, right? And so I idolized him, right? so when I went to Oklahoma and someone picked me up at the airport, he was a part of the program. And so, when someone's a part of the program, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Yeah. He's family, he's cool, So he picked me up, and this is a place that I'm not accustomed to, right? And so I get off the plane, and I'm not sure of a lot of things, right? This is all brand new to me, because when I got on the airplane, when I got off the airplane, there was, twangy music, which I never heard before, country music, right? So I was like, oh, because I grew up with hip hop and R&B and kind of Lionel Richie. My parents listened to Lionel Richie and like Michael Jackson, all that stuff, right? So I was unaccustomed to country music, right? So I was like, dang, it's kind of weird music, So then I see this guy holding a sign up that had tight Wrangler jeans, a big belt buckle, and a cowboy hat. I'm like, man, that's a real life cowboy. I've never seen a cowboy before.
Where's the horse?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, he probably got it tied outside or something like that, right? I'm like, dang, this is crazy, right? He's holding up the sign, and he's got this big bottle of like a Gatorade bottle, and he's like got a big bump on the side of his cheek, and he's like spitting in this bottle, and it's like halfway full, because he's got chewing tobacco, right? And so he's spitting in there, and I'm like, I've never seen that too. So this is all brand new to me, man, And so I'm like, wow. And so I go up to him and said, hey, sir, I'm Mark Munoz. He goes, huh? You Mark Munoz, huh? And he spits in a bottle. I'm like, oh, shoot, that's crazy, right? And he's like, huh, Munoz. You mind me asking, son, are you some type of Mexican? Right? I'm like, what? Mexican? Man, I thought there was only one type of Mexican, right? Like, there's only one race of Mexican, right? And so I was like, no. I said, sir, I'm Filipino. He goes, huh? He's spinning his ball. You Filipino? I'm like, what? So I'm mixed with a jalapeno and a Filipino? Like, what the heck
You're
is
a
going
pepper
on
now.
here? Yeah. So I was like, so I didn't know how to feel. To answer your question, I didn't know how to feel. I was like confused. I was like, wait, really? And so I was like, sir, no, I'm Filipino. He goes, well, sir, I'm fixing to take you to Stillwater. And like, fixing, what are we fixing? Are we like mechanics now? Like, he said, I'm fixing to take you to Stillwater. You're going to meet Coach Smith. I'm like, oh, this is crazy, man. So I was in shock. Like, I didn't know this type of culture, so I wasn't offended, I wasn't, but, I mean, I got picked up by the equipment manager. His name is Terry Morris, and, God bless his soul. He is a good guy, great guy, just never saw a Filipino before, so I guess, and so it was my chance to educate him, I guess, so, and, since I was there, I cooked chicken adobo and lumpia and, some Filipino dishes for them, and they're like, man, this is good. I'm like, yeah, man, welcome to my culture, and so, and they love pancit and, all that stuff. I should have cooked them dinigo, and I never did, but, and told them what it was, but, I didn't want to do that to him. But anyways, yeah, man. I mean, I wasn't offended. I think there's, being offended is, uh, is all relative, because, I mean, there's offenses, right? And there's being offended, right? Somebody can offend you, but, like for me, like I just, I didn't feel like I was offended because he didn't know about it, and so I was just trying to educate him, and cooked him our food, and then he was like, "Whoa, I love Filipinos," so so it's all good to me. But back in the Midwest, like there wasn't that many Filipinos out there,
Sure.
uh, um, I met one that was mestiza. She was mestiza, and half white, half Filipino. So, but
Love
there's a lot
those.
more. Yeah, I know. So my kids are mestizas. Mestiza, mestizo. So, so I met my wife in Oklahoma, you know, and so,
And you're
I'm
pumping
thankful.
out a bunch of mestizos and mestizas. Well, one mestizo.
Yeah, I'm one mestizo and all mestizas. So, yeah, I love Oklahoma, and my face is on a wall out there, in the National Hall of Fame, and in the wrestling room. And so, the legacy is etched, in my roots in Oklahoma. So I love the state. I love the people out there. And now they know who Filipinos are. So
Totally.
yeah,
Well, the one thing I want the listening audience to understand, it's like, sometimes you just got to give people space. You can't overreact and be offended
yeah,
right away. It's
yep,
kind of like what took place with your father. If he wasn't like
yeah,
headstrong and said, "No, Mark, you're gonna do this. You're gonna wrestle your ass off. You said you
yep,
want to wrestle, boy. You're gonna wrestle."
yeah,
And I feel like, for the younger generation, they just don't give room to, what do you mean by what type of Mexican? You
yeah,
just can't be
yeah,
offended right away. Maybe they just don't
yeah,
know.
yep,
And a lot of people also
right,
like overreact. Well, you're Filipino. I love Filipino food. You shouldn't be offended by that. They're giving you
yeah,
props.
that's right,
So,
right,
but you
that's
also
right.
talked about like regionality on wrestling, like from Oklahoma. Do you find it now like, oh, that's a Pasadena full Nelson guy. That's a Los Angeles hipster ankle picker.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there a style developing within regions with wrestling?
yeah, yeah. I think it's yeah. There are definitely styles, because based on the coach that is highly influential in that area, you see the type of wrestling that is around that area. So take, for example, in Oklahoma, John Smith is a two-time Olympic champion, six-time world champion, did that consecutively in those years. So he pretty much took that style and taught it all around Oklahoma and the Midwest. So you see a lot of low single leggers, you see a lot of um, high crotchers, and that type of slick style. Well, Dan Gable, Dan Gable is a huge name too as well. He took his underhook style and his aggressive, like uh, underhook and Greco type wrestling to Iowa. And so now so now in that region you see, the Dan Gable style, and I mean, you just see that all around. College coaches are highly influential, and you see a lot of those types of styles. But I think it's a lot more of it is being more based upon your skill set now. So although there's a lot of influence on the type of wrestling that you're going to be introduced to, kids gravitate to what they're good at, what their instincts are, and then the coaches based upon that. and not try to change a kid, because if you try to change them, it doesn't go too far, because their instincts doesn't um, doesn't align with what they're taught, So so you got to teach them based upon their instincts, their physical ability, their stature, um, their learning style, their personality. You gotta, coaching's an art, and so you got to be able to do that. So yeah, so that to answer your question, yeah, I mean, there's different styles, but it's getting more diverse everywhere now.
It, I don't know if this is the right metaphor or comparison, but where would you put, like, there's Jordan, there's LeBron.
Yeah.
Where's Dan Gable? Is he one of the GOATs? Is he on the Mount Rushmore of American wrestling?
Oh yeah, 100%. Dan Gable is on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, he's like John Smith. He's like um, in his time, like he won every national championship from like 19 in the 1990s to like the you know late 2000s. I mean, not late 2000s, but I mean he. No, I'm sorry. He coached in the 1980s. Yeah, he's got a lot of national championships since he took over Iowa, and yeah, he changed the sport too. He's very, very influential. Yeah, so and I always joke about it because people are like, there's this move called the Iowa Ride, right? Which Oklahoma State is a rival to Iowa, because we're two big programs that battle each other, and Oklahoma State has more national championships than Iowa does, and so people always talk about Iowa this, Iowa that. I'm like, no, hey, let's get it straight. How many team national championships does Iowa have? And they have about like 24 or 25 or something like that. Oklahoma State has 35, and so I was like, historically, we're the better program, so when people say Iowa or like this is the Gable grip or the Iowa ride, I'm like, no. Gable didn't create this grip, neither did they create the Iowa ride, so it's called the ankle ride, and this grip is called the butterfly grip, and so I just try to correct them on those terms because because that kind of irks me a little bit, so but anyways, yeah, Dan Gable is definitely a huge influencer in the sport for sure.
Now, there's an interesting saying or a definition that's commonly used with coaches. You've talked about coaching expectancy.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you could elaborate to the listener what that is, and do you have that as a coach?
Yeah. So this, as a coach or just as a person in general, I mean, it's called the expectancy theory.
Expectancy theory, right?
The expectancy theory. So what it is, the theory is your first impression of somebody sticks with you for a very, very long time and doesn't change, and so that's the theory. And as a coach, when you look at somebody and you see their athletic ability, you see their skills, you see whether they're coachable, you expect, or the expectancy you have upon them is, wow, this kid is going to be really, really good. You hear that all the time because your expectancy of that athlete, you believe that they're going to give a lot back to you because of their athletic ability, because of their coachability, because of their personality, because of their, um, whatever they have, and so that's the expectancy theory. And so coaches coach based upon the first impression of what they get from their athlete, right? So, and it's hard to change that. That first impression sticks with somebody for a very long time. So when I see a kid and I, my expectancy of them is like, okay, you know, this kid's athletic. This kid's very coachable. This kid is rough around the edges. He's aggressive, and like this kid's going to be good. And so I see that. But then there's another kid that works extremely hard, not athletic, that is, asks a lot of questions. It's like, am I going to coach that kid? Am I going to coach that kid differently from the more athletic kid? So what tends to happen is you tend to gravitate towards a more athletic kid than you do towards the other kid, right? So you spend more time with the other kid, right? And so that's the expectancy theory. So for me, like I coach every kid the same, and I said, listen, if any of you have a question, you need to ask it. And no matter how many questions you have, I'm going to answer all of them. And so you're going to take your career in the palm of your hand, and you're going to take control and take responsibility for what you want to learn in this sport. I have the keys for you to unlock success with, but you need to come get it, So it's kind of like this. I have a $100 bill in my hand. Oh, let's make it even better. I got $100,000 check in my hand. That it's the pay to is not even signed on, but I completed the rest of the check, right? So I have this, and I can sign it to you, right? But it's not yours until you come get it, right? So if you stand up, take it from my hand and say, thank you very much, I'll sign your name on it, right? But you have to get up and take it. That's the same example I give to every one of my athletes that I coach is you have to take responsibility for what you want to learn. I have the keys to unlock your success. And so you got to ask me every question under the sun, under the moon, under the lights, and make sure you illuminate the things that you do wrong. Because when you do that, then you're improving every day. You don't want a day to go away to be wasted without you learning something, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 moves, So take every opportunity to learn every day so you can get better every day, And so that's what I do, and I have that expectancy on everybody. I expect you to learn every day and work hard every day, because if you don't, there's somebody else that's working harder than you. If you're not getting up, if you're out of shape, if you're not getting up and running, then that's a day wasted for you. If you keep getting overpowered from somebody, and if there's a day that you've planned on your lifting schedule to not lift, then that's a day you're not getting better, because somebody's lifting and getting better than you that day, and so those are things that I point out. And I want my kids to have work ethic. I want my kids to have dedication. I want my kids to have diligence. I want my kids to understand the benefits of hard work, so that's one of the things that I want to implement into my athletes.
Coach Mark, do you have time for, I know you're very busy. Do you have time for a few more questions, or do you got to bounce now?
No, I got time.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I think it's important for, I don't know, for me, I'm a little bit biased because someone who's gotten punched in the face and wrestles, there's gravity,
Yeah.
behind the words, behind someone who punches people in the face and wrestles. There's just something, like, I love jiu-jitsu people, but if they've fought in striking also, then there's weight behind it, So
Yeah,
I just wanted to ask you a few more. But do you feel a difference when you wrestle someone who also fights in MMA versus a wrestling to wrestling type
Yeah,
sparring
yeah,
session?
yeah. So wrestlers, man, they're taught at a very young age to keep position, to be aggressive, um, to be technically sound. I mean, if you got great coaching, I mean, that's what you're going to see a wrestler. I mean, wrestlers are tenacious, you know. Um, Fighters are more strategic and methodical, you know. So if you look at all the wrestlers, let's take for example uh, Colby Covington, um, you know, myself, Josh Koscheck. Let's look at the champions that were the past champions. Chris Weidman. Let's look at you know even George St. Pierre. He learned how to wrestle. And look at where he was. 155. Oh, Frankie Edgar. And the list goes on. There's a lot of wrestlers out there that were champions. I believe that that out of all the weight classes out there, the one champion was not a wrestler. All of them were wrestlers except for one. With the background of wrestling. You know, um, so at one point, so wrestling. To answer your question, wrestling is a sport where you learn all those things at a very young age. And fighters, if you if you got into fighting first, um, you tend to be more methodical and more strategic. Wrestlers are like recklessly abandons, like all technique and just goes after it, and just goes after the takedown. So to answer your question, I definitely feel the difference. Um, Wrestlers are more aggressive in nature than just a pure fighter. And so, but wrestling is kind of, it brings mixed martial arts together. I think it's the cement, that it's the glue, it's the that connects everything together. It's the nuts and bolts, right? Because um, if you take somebody down, if they're a striker, if you take them down and they don't know wrestling, you can win the fight, right? If if the guy's a wrestler and you know how to stop takedowns, then you can put the fight where you want it, and you can win the fight because of your striking, because you're a better striker. So wrestling, is huge in the sport, and so wrestling is essential. I believe it's the essential um, martial art that needs to be learned in mixed martial arts.
Now, as I close, so, how they say like, "Oh, I'm glad Lords of the Rings and The Matrix was produced when technology is like premium." Imagine if they produced The Matrix in the '80s, it would have looked like
Yeah,
puppets stringing.
yeah,
So I
for
asked
sure.
this question because it's timely and you're still successful and you're hustling. But when you look back, when your son goes, "Dad, I really want you to train me," you know,
Yeah.
how much of that is a penchant for him to be like, "Dude, I just want to be with my dad.
Uh,
I don't care
yeah.
about wrestling." He
Yeah.
does, but how
Yeah.
much of that penchant is like that family thing? Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this because I
Yeah.
just want my dad to quit so I can be with him. Looking back,
man, man, that's the whole reason why I retired. I was gonna keep going. I was, man, for 2.5 years, almost 3 years, I was ranked in the top five, in the world. And I was just almost there. I was like, man. And I was training with these world champs that are coming to Rain Training Center, which I had a big gym, and the world's best was coming to my gym, and I was training them all the while fighting at the same time, and so, um, so, when when he came, and there was already a sense of guilt in me because I was pursuing this dream of becoming a mixed martial arts or UFC world champion. I was pursuing the dream, but in that dream came less time with my family. So I already had extreme guilt, and so when my son came up to me and said, "Dad, I want to wrestle," because he played soccer and baseball. Like, I introduced him to wrestling when he was in 6th grade, and he didn't really like it. And he played soccer and baseball, and he was really good at those sports. He made all-star teams. He made a national team that went to Cooperstown, New York. Coming from California, so he went from coast to coast to play in this national baseball tournament, which which a lot of the best baseball players go and play. And he played in the National Cup for soccer, and his team made the semifinals. So he is so good at those sports. And he says, "Dad, I want to wrestle. I want to quit soccer and baseball, and I want to wrestle." I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, you went to the freak show like 2 weeks ago and you lost. Like, you didn't win a match. Like, why do you want to wrestle? You can be so good at the other sports, right? Because Dad, I love it. And to your point, man, I think it was something that he just wanted to be around Daddy, and I was already getting that sense already. And then I asked him this question. I said, "Buddy, there's 70." I said, "There's what do you want to do in this sport?" Right? Because when he was born in Oklahoma, and so I was coaching Oklahoma State, and then we moved to California, back close to my hometown, which is Vallejo. We were 25 miles away from Vallejo, and so he saw me coaching UC Davis and building up that program, helped build up that program with Lenny Zaleski, and he was around, like, college wrestlers, pretty much his whole childhood and his whole life, so he saw that, and so he is like, "Dad, I want to quit soccer and baseball, and I want to wrestle." And I go, "Why? Why do you want to wrestle?" And I said, "What do you want to do in the sport of wrestling?" He says, "I want to get a full ride scholarship to a Division I university." I said, "What?" Like, there's tens of thousands of kids that want this scholarship, and they want a full ride scholarship. And there's only 70 schools that give scholarships, but not all of them give full ride scholarships. So what makes you think, out of the tens of thousands of kids that want the scholarship, that you, Trey Munoz, is going to get the scholarship, right? Without batting an eye, he looks me dead in the face. He goes, "Well, I got you, Dad." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And that hit me hard. I mean, that was like a dagger to my heart. I was like, and I started getting emotional. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I started getting, tears started rolling down my face, and I hugged him super tight, and I said, "Buddy, all right, buddy, if you want to do this, I love you, buddy. We're gonna do this, right?" And so, family runs deep, man. For me, man, I'll do anything for my family, And so, when he came up to me and he said that, I was like, "Man, we're gonna do this, right?" And so, you know, so 5 years later, after that, man, he ended up getting his scholarship, signs with Arizona State, had Oklahoma State recruiting him, Arizona State, he had Stanford recruiting him. He had, like, the top 10 universities in wrestling recruiting him, and so I was like, he got up there, man. He achieved his goals, and I was there the whole way, and so yeah, I think looking back, he did want to become like his daddy a little bit, and I just love that. I love where he's at. I love what he's trying to pursue. He changed his major from mechanical engineering to education, because he wants to be a wrestling coach. And now with this new job that I have, he might come on and replace me. So uh, so we'll keep it in the family. But man, yeah, like you said, man, like family to me is everything, and I love my family, and I love everyone that's close to me, and that's just who I am, And so yeah, so that answer your question, yeah, that's how it went.
Man, Coach Mark, I feel like we could do a Joe Rogan podcast, like one of those 2.5, 3 hour podcasts, because there's so much more
Yeah,
layers. We didn't
yeah,
even get into anything like cultural about Oklahoma and being Filipino American, like
yeah,
even being from up north, right?
yeah,
That's a whole subculture of
yeah,
folks.
big
I
time.
mean, that's a different type of Filipino, being from Vallejo,
Yep,
Oakland versus LA
yep,
Filipinos, it's
yeah,
different, right?
big
Uh,
time, very different.
Um, are if you are for hire for seminars,
Yeah,
coaching, private sessions, where can people
yeah.
get a hold of you?
Man, you can get a hold of me through my social media. Instagram. You could message me on Messenger, on Facebook. Shoot, you could. Yeah, I mean those things. So um, I check Instagram more, so you can check Instagram. But I also have my Facebook page. You can go on Messenger too, and you can check me out there. Um, you can. I'll give you my email over over here too. So you can go to Mark MM, so two M's, at markmunozmma.com. You can go there, and yeah. So you can reach me out there. Reach me in those outlets.
Well, Coach, you've been generous with your time. It's a privilege and honor for me, and I hope a lot of people in general, doesn't have to be ethnically derived, but man, it's like it's the epitome of someone who's an immigrant child, right? Technically,
Yeah, yeah,
and you're doing your
yeah,
thing, and what more harder route through wrestling and MMA
yeah.
to do your thing?
That's
It doesn't
right.
get any harder than
Right.
that. So it's an
Yeah.
honor and a pleasure, man. And I look up to you, bro.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate it, and I thank you for the podcast. And yeah, if you welcome me back, I'd love to have another one with you because we didn't finish our conversation. So let me know.
Yeah, possibly a part two because I'm also on satellite radio.
All right. Nice,
So
man.
maybe
Awesome.
once this hot damn pandemic is
Yeah,
done, we
yeah,
could
for
be in
sure.
studio because you're mostly in Southern Cali, right?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California. Yep, I'm in Orange County.
Yeah, that would be dope to have you in studio. That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
man. Yeah,
Once
reach
once
out, bro.
everything's all good health
You got
wise.
my contact information, man. So yeah, hit me
Yes,
up.
sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Coach.
No problem, man.
All right, take
Good luck
care.
with everything. All the best. Bye, man.